There's no doubt that buying real estate is one of the largest investments one can make in their lifetime. Many persons dream about buying a house, but can this dream turn into a nightmare? What are the legal steps necessary when buying? Are there any hidden costs? What questions should one ask? It is necessary when buying to do due diligence. Today's episode, we would learn what are the necessary steps to take when buying property.
Surprise! Surprise!
Surprise what?
See that? That's what I got you.
You have to be joking.
No.
You wouldn't buy that for your wife, you buy that for me?
No, but it's
back
a
of God,
place. Listen, this area has a lot of potential.
To put me here?
No, come on.
You had to be joking. Oh my God, and you stuck like me. How my clients going to find me? It have taxi in the back here? Oh my God, no. I can't do this. You better leave me renting.
But
come on.
Yeah, you better leave me renting.
But this has a lot of potential, my dear.
Hello, no.
I never...
Jesus.
Excuse me. Who are you?
Who are you? Who is she?
But I don't know. I've never seen this.
I am the landowner.
You don't know she and she don't know you.
The landowner.
My name is with a double S.
No. I'm afraid that you have this all wrong.
I don't have this mistaken. I paid on my land. This is my land.
Hello, ma'am. I purchased this land. I have a deed for it. Do you have one?
I have a receipt showing I pay my money.
That's not
my hard work money.
I'm not even interested, Roll. I'm not even interested in land.
No. Listen. Let me just say to you. So, let's get this straight. What I have for this property is a deed. Meaning that I own this property.
I don't know about that. I know I pay my money. I get my receipt. This is my land. You put them bricks there?
Well, let me...
That is your bricks?
Absolutely.
I don't understand this.
Absolutely. So let me just say to you, we don't have to extend this beyond this conversation. This can be settled very easily. You treat with my lawyer. I'll give you my lawyer's number. You call my lawyer.
Ha! Your lawyer? You'll talk to my lawyer.
Madam, I purchased this piece of property under the RPO Act. And as such, it does not fall under the common law. And I have a deed for it.
What RPO and ting, you trying to confuse my brain with? Me know about all them things. You understand? And common law, maybe a hoochie common law. But I pay for that land, and that's my land. That's as much as I know.
Well, this seems to be really getting out of hand. You understand? Because as far as I'm concerned, the RPO Act under which I purchased this does not really require me to, in fact, do a title search. And that's the only thing that I did not do. But this property is mine as of now. And I need you to just understand that. Just understand that. Right? It is freehold property that I have an entitlement to by way of the deed that I have.
I own that property and it wasn't for free. I pay my money. That is mine.
In situations like these, in order to avoid them, it is always advisable before you start a process to get a lawyer. In Trinidad and Tobago is a dual law, meaning two systems of law that operate for purchasing land. One being the RPO or the Real Property Ordinance, so some say Real Property Act, that falls under the Torrance system. And then there is the old law, as he was talking about, which is the Old English Common Law. Most lands in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, is still under the old law or the common law. And as he was indicating to her, with the RPO, there's no need to do a title search, because with the RPO, all the documents are listed on that certificate of title. However, you also heard him saying that the land is freehold. What does that mean? Land could be either freehold or leasehold. With freehold, it is absolute. You are in total ownership and possession of that parcel of land. It is perpetual, forever, indefinite. However, with leasehold, the quantity or the duration of time is on the terms. It can sometimes range from 199 to 999 years. These are all imperative questions that one must ask when purchasing a property.
So what we have here is a situation where the vendor on this property in fact sold me or did a transaction with me, and we both agreed on how it was going to be done because I needed to save some money on stamp duties.
Wait. Vendor? I ain't buying nothing from no vendor. Nobody had decided the road and get nothing. This man is a businessman. I went to him to do things proper. But like this man is a fraud.
In legal terminology, there is the vendor and the purchaser. So when one say the vendor, it refers to the person that is selling a property. And when they say the purchaser, it refers to the person that is buying a property. And then there's the stamp duty. Stamp duty really refers to taxes that we pay on land or taxes on property. In this case, taxes on land. So as this gentleman was saying, he tried to forfeit stamp duty. In Trinidad and Tobago, if a property, a piece of land, a parcel of land is $450,000, you are exempted from paying any stamp duty. That means you pay zero, nothing. However, for every dollar for the next $200,000, you pay 2%. And for every dollar on the following $200,000, you pay 5%. And anything, if you're doing the maths with me, anything above $850,000 TT dollars, you pay 7%. This is not the same for a parcel of land with a dwelling property. For every $850,000, a parcel of land with a dwelling house, you pay absolutely nothing.
Well, ma'am, I was defrauded. My family, everybody put up money to help me buy this land, and I just need to understand what happened.
Well, Ms. John, the first question that I have to ask you is, did you seek legal advice before you purchased the land?
Well, no.
Okay, Ms. John, so that we could correct this and that in future you wouldn't have this happening to you, I'd just like to go through these steps with you in purchasing land and moving forward. Okay. So the first thing that you should ever do when you're purchasing land is to seek legal advice. The attorney that you go to will guide you through the process and actually have safeguards in place to prevent this from happening to you. So when you go to the attorney's office, they would require certain things from you. The first thing is 2 forms of identification. The second thing is a source of funds. What a source of funds is, it's just a form asking you where you got the funds to purchase the land. And that is in compliance with the Proceeds of Crime Act, and it prevents us from actually getting in trouble because we have to make sure that our clients are not involved in money laundering or anything like that. And the third thing that we would ask you for is a copy of the registered deed from the vendor. The person that you purchased the land from. So why we need this is that we actually take the registered copy and we take the deed number and we do a search. So we go to the land registry and do a title search on the deed to trace back to who owned the land before and to ascertain whether there were any gaps or inconsistencies. What else we look for in that title search is if there are any existing mortgages, because we don't want the bank coming to repossess the land at any point, right? And we also look to see if there are any judgments or lis pendens to make sure that the land is actually in good standing for you to purchase. So after that search is done, the attorney may prepare the agreement for sale. So what the agreement for sale is, it is just an agreement between you and the vendor, allowing you to pay the 10% deposit on the land, but the agreement actually has some safeguards in it for you in case the vendor doesn't show good marketable title. So this agreement actually says that if the vendor doesn't show good marketable title, that you could get your deposit back. So you could be refunded the deposit, and even in this situation, he defrauded you. So if you had done the agreement in this situation, he would have actually had to return the deposit to you. And also, it actually could be rescinded as well if he doesn't give you certain documents. So the vendor is actually required to give you a WASA clearance certificate, some up-to-date WASA receipts, any kind of redemption statement on the land if there were any mortgages, a deed of release for those mortgages, some receipts saying that the attorney's fees were paid for the mortgages, and all of these things just to make sure that nothing happens to the land if you were to take possession of it. So if there were any existing mortgages, as I said, the bank can come and repossess it. Also the WASA charges, that is a first charge on the land. So if anything were to happen and they don't provide you with that, WASA could actually come and they could charge the land. while you're in possession of it. So we don't want that happening. So once the vendor actually provides all these documents for you, the attorney would say that he has provided good marketable title. And then we can move forward with drafting the deed, signing the deed, paying stamp duty, and registering the deed. And the deed would be transferred to you.
Now, when you visit your attorney, there's a difference in law when it comes to the type of lands. There's old law, and then there's the new system or the registered system. The old law, which we call common law system, this is normally done through deeds. And with that, that's where your attorney would have to do a title search and obtain an abstract of title showing the history of all transactions that took place on the land over a period of time, up to at least 20 years prior to the date of you purchasing the property. Unlike the RPO lands, there's the endorsement, some of you call it certificate of title. All of the transactions that take place on that particular piece of land is endorsed on the certificate of title. So the searching process is less complicated as compared to the common law land. Do you understand so far? Yeah. Now, I want to go further and speak about the vendor's obligation. My friend spoke about, some of the responsibilities of the person who's selling the land to you, what he needs to do. So he needs to provide certain documents for you, and if he doesn't do that, then he could be at fault in his contractual obligations. So that would be documents such as the WASC clearance, land and building taxes. And you may be asking, what is the land and building tax? That is a tax or levy that the government places on persons who own property or who own the building on the property. And that's, taxes are important. That's to ensure that you have proper drainage and to provide different services and so that the citizens need. So taxes are important. And that's why land and building taxes are important.
Still confused, wondering what's happening here. Just to break it down for the layman. You're sitting down watching TV and you're saying, boy, I am more lost than I started initially. There are two systems of law that we use in Trinidad and Tobago. As we said earlier, the RPO, sometimes called the RPA, that is the Real Property Ordinance or the Real Property Act. Under that particular act, there is what we call a certificate of title. Under the old law, what we call the common law, under the English law, that is, we have a deed of conveyance. So what he was explaining to the lady was the difference between the RPO as opposed to the old law. With the RPO, which is more modern under Torrance, of course, advocated since 1946. However, it is not broadly adopted as yet. All the switches, everything, every documentation is on that certificate of title. So it minimizes all the different searches that one would have to do. Then, who has what responsibility? What responsibility is for the purchaser and what responsibility is for the vendor? What is the vendor responsible for? Remember, who is the vendor? The vendor is the person selling a property. And the purchaser, just to reiterate, the purchaser is the person that is buying a property. What the vendor is responsible for based on what he just said. What's a clearance certificate? The vendor. Land and building taxes, also the vendor. The vendor is also responsible to give to the purchaser a copy of the certificate of title or the deed of conveyance. And all other encumbrances that is on the property, the vendor is also responsible for paying such.
Let me tell you a point. There are many persons who believe that you could purchase property by merely passing money and just signing a receipt. While there may be some defenses and some points in law to raise in that, it ideally should be done in writing through a contract or sale agreement as it's commonly called. Now, in this sale agreement, I want to mention some crucial points and some features that must be included in it. It will have the names of the parties, the purchaser and the vendor. You'd also have a description of the property. This is important because sometimes there may be persons who are going to purchase a property and in fact they're purchasing a property that doesn't even exist. So you want to make sure that there's a proper description of the property that you're purchasing. Then for any valid contract, there must be what we call consideration. What is consideration, you might be asking? It's more or less the sums of monies being passed. So you'd see where there would be a deposit of most times 10%, and then there'll be a completion date. That is the period of time when you have to pay the difference of 90%. And that is most times within 90 days of the day of you signing the sale agreement. Now, when you do your sale agreement and you ensure that all of the relevant aspects of the sale transactions are in place, such as visiting your property, ensuring that there's proper title, good and marketable title by the vendor, you'd also want to now have your stamp duty in order. You're saying stamp duty, I could imagine your reaction, and I would know why you would react like that. Stamp duty, when you hear that, it is the next set of taxes that you have to pay. But as I mentioned earlier, taxes are important. It's just about what taxes are being used for. Before I spoke about this, the taxes being applied for persons who actually own land or own a house on the land, as the case would be. But this stamp duty is really where you pay tax because it's a legal transaction that you're doing. It's the transferring of a property from one person to the next, and that is what the stamp duty is. Stamp duty now, it's dependent upon the type of land. If it's agricultural, if it's commercial, it depends on the type of land. The taxes or the stamp duty will vary. If there's a house on the land, it also varies. Let me go further with that. You see, stamp duty, it depends on the type of property that you're purchasing, whether it be agricultural, commercial, or even residential. Sometimes residential property as well. If there's a house on the property, you may get some exemption.
Now he's talking about stamp duties, and it also varies. Yes, it does. You're interested in purchasing a residential piece of land or maybe a residential land with a dwelling house? How does this apply? For residential land, the first $450,000, you pay nothing. Zero, no money. There's no stamp duties. But the next every dollar for the next $200,000, you pay 2%. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So if a piece of land is $650,000, what are you paying? You will pay 2% on the next 200,000. So the first 450, nothing. So you're not calculating 650,000, but rather you're calculating the next 200,000. If the land is in the excess of 650,000, every dollar for the next 200,000, you also pay 5%. Are you following me so far? First 450, nothing. Every dollar after that for the next 200,000, 2%. Every dollar after that for the next 200,000 after 650,000, 5%. So we have about what? $850,000. Everything in excess of that, you pay 7%. This only applies to residential land that has no dwelling house. So you're asking the inevitable question, what about I'm purchasing a piece of land with a house? What applies for stamp duty? The first $850,000. Oh my God, we love how that sounds. You paid nothing. This is residential land with a dwelling. The next what? 400,000, you pay 3%. And every dollar following that to the next 500,000, you pay 5%. Quick maths, what is it adding up to? $1,750,000. Anything in excess of that, you pay 7.5%. So bring out your pen, bring out your paper. You're looking through the papers, maybe you're scrolling through on your phone, seeing houses for sale prices, land for sale prices. Now you can calculate your own stamp duty. Here in Crash Class, we aim to empower you.
So, counsel, it seems that your client owes my client a sum of $750,000. Is he in a position to repay that right now?
Well, my friend, if you look at this document, you realize that there's a lot of fraud that's taking place here. Even my client was defrauded, so I would have to investigate this and deal with my client accordingly.
Wait. So who really represented me? Or you're trying to tell me my money trouble that who is really paying me?
Ma'am, can you settle down, please? Counsel, please explain to your client the code of conduct in a courtroom.